I wasn't super impressed with this the last time I shot with it. I thought it was kind of clumsy and really just not necessarily worth my time. And then, oops, I found a roll, thank you, of 120 film. We did our review of the Noblex, and one of the things I learned about the Noblex is that if you don't push the shutter button when you load the camera, you end up scrolling through an entire roll of film because it doesn't stop. And I learned that one the hard way, so I ended up with a roll of 120 Portra color film that was spooled onto the take-up spool. And I thought to myself, oh, I know what I can do. I can just roll it back onto a 120 spool and reshoot it, and that would be fun. But then we had our 620 cameras, and we shot them in black and white, and we thought that they were really pretty forgettable. But then I saw the work of a guy named, I believe it's William Christenberry, who did some amazing stuff in the American Southwest, I believe, or Southeast, anyway, in the United States, shooting incredible images with Brownie cameras, most of which were in color. Today is a beautiful day. It's clear, it's sunny, it's nice and warm. Perfect conditions for, well, the 160 ISO, but still 100 ASA film in the high-tech Brownie that has 2 whole f-stops. We'll be using the sunny setting today, I think. And we're going to run this through and see how it goes. So. So we went out on a nice sunny day, just walked around the neighborhood here, and I you know, exposed. Well, I managed to get 6, I think. Is there 8 frames on this one? I can't remember. Anyway, I managed to ruin a couple of them, but I managed to get 6 or 8, 6 or 7 reasonable exposures from you know, Portra 400, I think, in the Brownie. And so we scanned them in, and I retouched out all the dust, and we learned. Well, I learned a couple of things. First of all, I learned that color film doesn't really make the camera any better than it is with black and white film. The photos are still pretty unremarkable. Now, admittedly, the subject matter was also pretty unremarkable, and one could also argue that it's not about the camera, it's about the photographer, but well, leaving that one aside just for a moment. The photos are, you know, technically they're fine. Actually, the lens has a nice neutral color, which is good. You know, the Portra film looks like Portra, and it's you know, it's not what you call tack sharp, and it's not what you call anything other than just, you know, sort of just not really my cup of tea. So that's, you know, I mean, we did clean the lenses, and I also learned that spooling 620 film onto a 120 film onto a 620 spool requires a fair amount of care. Otherwise, you end up exposing the edges of the film quite badly, which adds to the mystique, I guess, of the whole project. Interior photography is almost impossible with one of these cameras. The contrast is not what I call, you know, great. Not for me, anyway. As I've said before, is that the 6:9 format is just not my favorite format. And the 2:3 ratio I really don't care for, and these cameras have it. So that may have had something to do with it as well. But when it comes right down to it, one of the reasons why I like taking photographs with old cameras and with obscure cameras, with the Horseman or with the, you know, with the Noblex because it's kind of cool, or with the Tomiyama, or with any of a number of other ones that we've done, is that there is a baseline expectation that technically the photographs will be pretty good, and which means that I'll be able to control the output enough so that I can actually get what I'm hoping to get, or get what I think I'm going to get. And the problem with the Brownies is that they are so incredibly limited, is that it's almost like a pinhole camera, or almost like, I mean, there's no focus, there's, well, 2 whole apertures, there's only 1 shutter speed, and you just kind of get what you get. And I really struggle with that, and I don't really struggle with it from an existential point of view. I really struggle with it from a, do I want to spend my time and put in the effort to go and take photographs if the camera that I'm using is really limiting my abilities to do what I want to do? And I'm a big fan of having my abilities limited. Big fan of just shooting with one lens. I'm a big fan of shooting large format. But I'm not a big fan of the notion that I'm really hamstrung with the camera. And so I'm going to put these back on the shelf. We've shot color, we've shot black and white. I think I've done enough testing to know that they're just not for me. And I've seen great work come out of these cameras. You go on any of a number of different websites, and you can see people producing really, really nice material out of these cameras. But they're just not for me. And so so rather than try and create a scenario that just doesn't exist, I'm not complaining about them. They're just not my cup of tea. And the limitations are more than I'm willing to tolerate. So, for what that's worth, there's a couple of rolls of film through a Brownie camera, both color and black and white. And thanks, but no thanks. So anyway, but thank you for watching. And as always, I'd love to hear your opinions.